pants in the corridors and the communal areas. Skirts no more than 2 inches from the ground when kneeling.
Who was the first person in your age group to show symptoms?
You all know something is wrong.
So where did it all start? What was the...
Well, it began because I was on the phone to a friend, and she was, we were just like rambling, and she started talking about this village she'd heard of in medieval times that couldn't stop laughing. And I thought, oh, mate, where, what? So I looked it up. It's about 10 years ago, and I looked it up, and I found a village in the 1960s in Tanzania where at a school, there was some girls that couldn't stop laughing and started to get really ill and faint and stuff. And it spread through Tanzania. And that's when I realised there was this title for it. I mean, commonly known as mass hysteria, but actually the correct title is mass psychogenic illness, or nowadays people call it, I think, collective conversion disorder. Sounds a bit posh, but... there are problems with the use of hysteria, though, because of from the womb and all that, but anyway, it's what many people call it. I found this, and then I went and met a psychiatrist, not for myself, but for the film, and his sort of pet subject was mass hysterias, and he had 2 box folders behind him when I interviewed him, and I was like, I really want to look through them. And then eventually I got invited back, and I looked through all his research he'd done for 20 years. And so there were all these articles from medical journals about outbreaks of mass psychogenic illness. And what fascinated me, they are fascinating, they happen in closed institutions, but I think 60% of them are in schools, and 90% of reported cases are female. And no one quite knows why, other than women maybe talk about their symptoms more, or how they're feeling, or I'm not exactly sure. But I became obsessed at that point with making, I made a short film about mass psychogenic illness, but I knew that one day I wanted to make, when I got the opportunity, to make a long film in a school, exploring an outbreak and sort of what lies behind it. Because in most of the articles I read, there was usually family, there was something about maybe the key girl that had problems and stuff. So I wanted to explore kind of going closer into that.
And always as a drama, rather than...
Well, I don't know if I always did, but certainly in the last few years, I knew that I wanted to do it that way. Because really, the most of what's reported are in medical journals. I mean, the big case in the last few years was the Leroy High School one, which was schoolgirls, mostly cheerleaders, who started to twitch. And Channel 4 made a documentary about the town that caught Tourette's. But that only really became newsworthy because one of the parents phoned up the environmental activist Erin Brockovich, and she marched into town and said there'd been a chemical spill, and that's why all these people were twitching. The fact that all the girls were girls and all of the same age, so no one else was infected, so it was a mass
strange
hysteria.
Chemical spill.
You know. But I suppose for me, although there's there is a pattern to an outbreak. Like, you have to admire somebody. There has to be an incident that occurs, such as a death or examinations or a toxic smell or something. While there's all that, there's a pattern, I think there's also something quite mystical about the outbreaks. And they do go back to medieval times. And in medieval times, mass hysterias were reactions to the anxieties of the times, hence Salem and those witch trials. And you would have dancing manias and pilgrim manias. Nowadays, they're much more reactions to toxic chemical food, terrorism. In the 60s, the articles I was reading, they were much more reactions, or seem to be reactions to sexual anxiety, especially around kind of new morality for women and stuff. So I find them very exciting, but I don't think anyone really knows exactly why they happen. But they are real, the things people feel are real. You feel, you do feel you really are sick, or that it's not a fake thing.
I will not tolerate such conduct.
Crazy witches!
Standards of behaviour must be kept.
And again, why 1969? Is it just because of, again, changing morality a lot at the time and what that was?
Well, there were a few things. One, I like this idea that I really wanted to look at adolescence, and I think 1969 in the UK was definitely an adolescent era. You know, it was still on the cusp of something, I think. There were a lot of anxieties around female sexuality, and also I wanted to make a teen movie where people were on mobile phones. And you're like, if you make a film with teenagers now, they'd have to be like that, wouldn't they? And this, and you know, you could not make an authentic film with teenagers now. So all the girls in it who were like that, but all the girls in it were like, actually, the experiences are exactly the experiences that we get now. It's like no different. No, they felt it was so similar, what you go through and wanting to seek attention, but at the same time wanting to be invisible and feeling so complicated. But now you couldn't do it without. And in fact, the girls in Leroy, where the outbreak was, they, for the first time with a very significant mass hysteria, they posted themselves online. So you can go on YouTube and see the development of it, and they're putting themselves online. So, you know, now people would you know, publicise what they were going through in a different way.
Some kind of global phenomenon or something like that.
I also like that 1969 man landed on the moon, and Eileen can't leave the house. Like, you know, she's like that, and there we go.
No small steps for her, and
This is a school, it's not a mental institution.
What have I done to you?
I'm not mad.
Hello.
Hello.
I was at a Catholic girls' school for the sixth form between 16 and 18, and a lot of the teachers just feel very, very familiar to me. They even look like my old teachers. Did you draw on any of your own schooling experience, or was it completely different, or how much of it was personal and how much did you have to look outside on other people's experience of schooling?
You see, I fantasised about going to a girls' school, especially a convent. I went to this big comprehensive, you know, and but I think some of the teachers probably resonate with me. But then I did quite a few interviews with girls that actually, or women that went to school at that time, and I remember somebody said our headmistress was quite shocking because she wore a hint of red lipstick, and it was sort of scandalous. So I love that. So that's why I've got Monica, Miss Alvaro in the lipstick, and then I was looking at obituaries of teachers as well, and so I based Greta's character, Miss Mantell, on an obituary of somebody because it went into her school life and how, you know, she'd gone through the doodle bug thing, and because I found it fascinating that in the 60s it was supposedly swinging. Those teachers would have lived through the war, and so it would have just been what in 20 years what went on, you know. So some of it off my own experience, and then some from looking at stuff. But I suppose I always fantasised about having Miss Jean Brodie. You know, you're like, but we never quite had Miss Jean Brodie. But I think when you're at school, you're quite sneery of your teachers, aren't you? You know, I remember that, and you don't feel they've lived really, unless they're the cool ones that you can call by their first names. That usually was sleeping with the girls actually at my school. But on the whole, that you didn't feel, you just felt they were sort of. I don't know, like fossils really. So I kind of wanted to explore not only teenagedom, if you like, but the judgment of young people on older people. So it's a bit of both really, but I'm glad they remind you of your teaching.
Nobody knows who I am anymore. What I'm really like. What I think about doing.
Thank you very much. Thank you much for your
and
questions.
I just really would like to thank Alan and Alison
sure.
of the Glasgow Film Festival. I keep calling it the International Film Festival, but, because it's really, you know, festivals are so important to showing work and showing this diverse work, and you just get such great audiences and real audiences. It's not like an industry audience. So thank you very much.
No, thank you. I was just going to remind people that the film opens on April the 24th. Yeah. Spread the word, tell your friends, get them out.
We've got a Facebook page, we've got Twitter. I think we've got all that other social media stuff that I don't understand. That thing that's like tumbles. Yeah, we've got that.
Go and explore that.
So please, because that for a small film like this and whatever, we need you.
Yeah. And join me in thanking Carol
Thank you
Morley.
very much.